All right, let's bring in Craig Button this morning. Oh, look at Craig.
He's got a coffee.
He's also drinking coffee this morning. Craig, what do you do? Do you have any velvet cream liqueur in your coffee today?
Bailey's.
That works. You always do Bailey's when you're recording for TSN as well, right? Like you have to have it.
Oh yeah, hey, I got to tell you a funny story. So years ago, working in Minnesota, the general manager's assistant, Jack Ferrer was the manager, and he came down. He put down his coffee cup. It's about 9 o'clock in the morning, and he picked up the executive assistant's coffee cup. It was laced. Needless to say, that was the last day on the job for that executive assistant.
Surprise! That's not a great idea. Craig Button with us today. Craig, we got to get to this Oilers and Washington Capitals game last night, and it was the Oilers played well. They heavily outshot them. They very well could have won that hockey game. They didn't have Connor McDavid. It became very apparent on the power play. And, what's this window like for them without McDavid? What can you learn about this team as a group of guys? What are you trying to prove to either, people outside of the team or within the team themselves? What can you do? What can you accomplish over this 3-game stretch without your captain?
I like the way you frame that. Like, what can you prove? And I think it's more within the team. So, you're going to be given more ice time. You're going to be given different opportunities in Connor McDavid's absence. And so how do you take advantage of those? Like, what can you show Chris Knoblauch? The opportunity to put players in different spots and give them more responsibility, challenges can be a little bit greater. When the playoffs begin, you're going to be confronted with different scenarios over the course of time. And when a coach can have confidence in knowing what a player can do and how he can handle a certain situation, now that means that you can meet those challenges in a better way. So for Chris Knoblauch, I think it's a real good opportunity for him to evaluate players in different spots. And to your point, for the players to show, hey, listen, I can handle a little bit more. And, there's going to be times, okay, do you want to ease the workload on your top players? You can also find that opportunity once Connor McDavid comes back by seeing what some players do. It's a 3-game sample size, but I think it does afford opportunity for players to show that they can handle a little bit more, and for Chris Knoblauch to gain a little bit of confidence in what they can handle.
Craig, what have you thought? Because we haven't talked about you since this entire incident went down. What have you thought of the play itself, the suspension, the conversation that has come out of it about, well, if the refs did their job better around the league, this wouldn't happen, and then the 3-game ban that both McDavid and Myers got?
Well, why don't I start from the back end, okay? So, the bottom line is I think that the actions of McDavid and Myers totally warranted and merited at least a 2-game suspension. I said it would shock me if they didn't get suspended 2 games at least, and it wouldn't surprise me if they got more. They got more. The Department of Player Safety has been raising that bar. And let's just keep this clearly in mind. It's about the act. It's not about the Department of Player Safety looks at the act. And to me, the act warranted it. Now, we can go back to the play, and you're in a competitive situation and everything's going on. People want to blame the referees. Let's just say the referees were going to call a penalty on that play. Edmonton had the puck. The play was never going to be stopped. Edmonton had the puck until Vancouver touched the puck. There wasn't going to be a whistle in the play. So are we suggesting that maybe that wouldn't have happened if the referee had his arm up in the air? Because the play was not going to be stopped. Yeah. Edmonton had the puck. So I think blaming the referees is wrong. I think there's no justification, no license for Connor McDavid, and it seems to me that the way the game has been officiated and our officials perfect. No, neither are players, and there's going to be mistakes being made. The bottom line is the game is tight. The game has been called tightly, and this idea that Connor McDavid puts up with abuse, I don't buy it. He has the puck as much as anybody in the league, and very few players. So he's going to have a lot of attention to him. But I think the referees do an excellent job of calling it. And this idea that he takes unwarranted abuse, based on my observations, and I see the Edmonton Oilers play lots, I don't see it that way. And I think that there's been a lot of apologists for an act that was very egregious.
Yeah, it's interesting because at least in this market, and I understand why in this, but it's almost It's almost been flipped that McDavid's kind of the victim here of poor officiating in the National Hockey League. And I think we're missing the point of everything that went down. And I know he hasn't been drawing penalties as often this year as he has in the past, but since he came into the league, no player has drawn more penalties than Connor McDavid, right? Like, and part of it is because he has the puck so much, but I don't know. It's been a very interesting conversation that's come here. Now, with that being said,
yeah, can I just say something to your point too? And like the power play for the Edmonton Oilers is lethal. So what do you think that the opposing coach says before every game? Don't take penalties. One of the things I've noticed about how teams defend against the Oilers now is when McDavid gets outside the dots, they just let him stay outside the dots now. They're saying you can stay outside this area, but when you start to attack, and Connor does attack into the middle of the ice, I mean, there's no question about it, but they're not chasing him down along the wall. They're not chasing him down into the corners like they did before. And they're not going to take penalties because the Edmonton Oilers power play is lethal. It started out a little bit tough at the beginning of the year, but it's back to that level where it's dangerous. So, yeah, this idea that, the referees aren't calling penalties and we can look at the penalty data. I think Edmonton last year was 24th in drawing penalties. I think they're 27th this year at this point in time. So, like, is there a big drop-off there? Teams are not dumb enough to take penalties against the Edmonton Oilers, and I think that's a big factor.
TSN's Craig Button with us on the Nielsen Show this morning. Craig, I just wanted your thoughts on the opposition last night, and I think you could make a case for a handful of teams around the league who is the best right now. They do lead in terms of points, and so it might be an obvious answer, but do you see them going the full way? I mean, we saw Logan Thompson last night and last week, Alex Ovechkin on that goal-scoring tear, but, I think you talk to people preseason, and they wouldn't necessarily have Washington at these heights. So are they, in your mind, the best team, and will they continue, do you see, to be that throughout the run here?
Amongst the best, Eric, I would say. I mean, last night, I thought the Oilers played excellent last night.
They did.
Logan Thompson was excellent. I thought the Edmonton Oilers really carried a lot of play. They kept a very good team, kind of forced them to defend a lot. And if it wasn't for Logan Thompson, I think that the Edmonton Oilers would have won that game. But goaltending is important. It's a really well-balanced team, Eric. Mm-hmm. They made the big trade in the offseason, getting Dubois. Dubois fit in very nicely. Ovechkin was on a tear last year. Dylan Strome is a nice center for him, but they've had the trade for Chychrun. Chychrun's played excellent. They've had an emergence of young players. Connor McMichael, Alexi Protas have come in and not just been players. They have been impact players in their lineup. And if you're going to take those steps and you're going to be a contender, you got a good group of players. I mean, John Carlson, now some of the burden's taken off of him. Yep. Goaltending's good. You're looking at a team that's getting a lot of really good, productive play throughout their lineup. They're well balanced. And when you watch them play, I think that they're a team that needs to be reckoned with. We talk about the beginning of the season. They remind me a lot, like in terms of the narrative around them, of how we talked about the Vegas Golden Knights in 2017-18. All the Golden Knights kept doing was showing us that they were good, and are they that good? Do we really believe in them? Like, they're an expansion team. Come on, can they really be that good? I feel the same type of narrative is surrounding the Washington Capitals, and I guess what I would say, Eric, is they're that good.
It's interesting because I think management deserves a ton of credit. Like, nobody, It didn't look like anybody was going to touch Pierre-Luc Dubois. After what happened, you're just like, oh man, this guy, there's nothing left there. And then the Chychrun trade was brilliant in my opinion. And it's funny because, Washington and Pittsburgh with the McDavid or the Ovechkin and Crosby eras, they get their titles, and Pittsburgh has gone down and haven't been able to find a way to get back up, and it looked like Washington was trending there as well, Craig. And the fact that they were able to, salvage maybe one or two more runs here with Ovechkin is pretty damn impressive. Like that's some savvy GMing right there.
Well, it is, and let's look at the differences between the two. The Pittsburgh Penguins traded picks, traded prospects, and we all understood that. We get all why that is. The Washington Capitals didn't do that. And so when I talk about Alexi Protas and I talk about Connor McMichael, I mean, these are draft picks. They got Ryan Leonard coming. the MVP of the World Junior Tournament. He's going to step right in their lineup. They have so many good players in their prospect pool, and the Pittsburgh Penguins didn't have that because they don't have the picks, and then they traded their prospects. I get it, but the Washington Capitals, to your point, Dustin, have managed it in a much different way, and now what you see is kind of this little dip, and now they're coming up again. And Ovechkin, it's not all left to Ovechkin. Keep in mind, they lost Kuznetsov and they lost Backstrom.
Yeah.
And they've replaced them. And to your point, to your question earlier, Pierre-Luc Dubois had to prove to others and to himself, wait a sec, I'm better than what I've shown. And he's gone and done exactly that in Washington.
As always, Craig, we appreciate the time a little bit more today because it's a different day, and I know you're busy with TSN right now. I do like the fact that you should wear a tie like this every single time you're on the show with us, though. Hey, let's do that.
Well, that's okay. That is coffee cup with Bailey's and a tie. You can count on it every single time. I will tell everybody, watch the Bob McKenzie draft midseason draft ranking show. Matt Schaefer is on it, and he's being interviewed. Like, when I tell you it is fantastic, I'm underselling it.
The interview?
Yeah.
Pretty composed young man, isn't he?
It is. I've never seen a prospect interview better than that.
Awesome. I can't wait to see that then. Do we know when's that airing, Craig?
11:30 a.m. Eastern time. That would be 9:30 in the Mountain Time zone, and 8:30 for our listeners and viewers in British Columbia.
Great stuff, Craig. We'll chat next week. There you go. That is Craig Button. What a beauty.